with a look at the new BlackBerry PassPort, perhaps the most exciting new BlackBerry in many years. And that's thanks to the fact that we get this flagship style large phone with a new and interesting design while retaining all those classic BlackBerry on here. So we have a piece of plastic covering the display. And then we have more on the back. Peel that off. One for the top removable piece, and then one for the back panel, like so. And then we have another one covering the camera module, so let's get a little closer here. Alright, so we're all set to go. Now the first thing I noticed when touching this phone is this nice, grippable, rubbery texture on the back, which adds to the grippability of the phone, especially in one-handed mode. So again, nice material choices here. Now we also have these little strips of plastic covering the top and bottom of the phone, so let's go and peel those off. Now we're going to take a really close look at this phone in just a minute, but first let's clear the contents here. So we have some of our paperwork here, so you can flip through this and see what's included. So it's a nice, colorful, quick start guide. And then we'll find under here a tray. So we'll see everything nicely organized here. So we have headphones, we have our power adapter, I guess we have some paperwork, and our micro USB charging cable here. Pretty standard stuff, just a micro USB 2.0 cable. Then we have our power adapter here with BlackBerry branding. Now as you can see here, I have the UK version, but of course if you buy yours in the US, you'll get the US adapter. All right, so let's go and pull out this first compartment here. All right, so if we pull this open here, again, inside we'll find a little skinny pamphlet here folded up. Now this is just regulatory warranty information in multiple languages. And then we just have this little flyer highlighting the SnapDragon processor in this BlackBerry. And then let's get to our headphones. So we have a little tab here to open up. And inside, pull it out. Now these headphones are kind of unique. These are in-ear style headphones, and you can see we have these little pieces here which help the headphones stick into your ear without falling out. And then you have this inline remote control and microphone, which is very useful. Now they do give you replacement ear tips. If you want to swap them out for a different size, you can, and a different style as well. All right, so let's get back to our BlackBerry. I'm just going to tap and hold the power button at the top to get it started. All right, so let's go and take a look at our BlackBerry PassPort, which is the size of a passport. It has the same dimensions. So it's 128 by 90.3 by 9.3 millimeters. So it's a fairly thick phone in the world of smartphones today, but it's a pretty robust phone with a stainless steel chassis, which feels very rugged, very rigid. So we have a 4.5-inch display, which is 1440 by 1440. Again, 453 pixels per inch, and it's very bright. It's up to about 800 nits, one of the brighter displays you can get right now. Now toward the top, you'll find your BlackBerry branding and your ambient light sensors, along with your fairly loud and clear earpiece. You also have that front-facing 2-megapixel camera, good for 720p HD video, and you have an LED notification light. As you can see at the bottom, we have our full backlit QWERTY keyboard, which is now 3 rows instead of 4 rows. The rest of the keys are now on screen, and I'll show you how that works. You can see that our third row features our spacebar, which is integrated into the QWERTY keyboard, which is kind of a strange form factor that you do have to get used to. Now this keyboard is also touch sensitive, so this can be used like a trackpad, which works with some other software features, which we'll explore in this video. Now on the right side, you have your volume up and volume down button integrated into this solid stainless steel band, along with a center click button, which is a multi-function button. I'll explore how this works, but it does things like pause and playback video, mute phone calls, and if you press and hold it, it brings up the voice controller. Toward the top, we have our sleep wake power on and off button, again integrated into the metal band, along with our headphone jack. And you can see we have this little thumbnail port for popping off the back panel, which we'll do in just a moment. Toward the bottom, we have a micro USB 2.0 port, which does support HDMI with the correct adapter. This means you can connect this to a TV to output the display and audio. Now this also works with Miracast, so you can wirelessly broadcast the display and media over Wi-Fi to Miracast compatible devices. We also have these stereo speakers on either side, which are loud and clear, and then we have our little microphone right next to the USB port. Now on the back, we have our BlackBerry branding toward the center in the soft touch rubbery material, which is very grippable, but it doesn't hang on to fingerprints as well as some other materials like this. Up here we can see our 13-megapixel camera, which does feature optical image stabilization, and we have an LED flash right above it. Now this is good for 1080p HD video at 60 frames per second. Now let me remove this back panel here so we can gain access to the micro USB and nano SIM slot for our SIM card. So you can see up here again we have an SD card slot which supports 128 gigs, and then you have your nano SIM. So I've slipped in my AT&T SIM and we're ready to go. Alright, so let's go ahead and snap this back into place, line up the pins at the bottom and snap it in at the top. All right, so let's go and take a look at our software. So again, we're running BlackBerry OS 10.3. Now you can swipe up from the bottom to unlock the device. Takes you right to where you last left off, which in my case is the home screen. Now you can also wake up the device using the lock button at the top, which is kind of inconveniently placed and kind of awkward to operate. So that takes you to the lock screen. Now if you want to launch the camera, just tap and hold the camera icon, launches right into the camera. Now if you don't want to get right into your home screen, you can also use a swipe up and down gesture to see your lock screen. And you can also close it just by swiping up and down again like so. So again, one quick up and down gesture takes you to your lock screen, which reveals your notification badges. So you can see up here we have our count as well as the notifications that are pending. So if you tap on that, you can actually see a preview of the notifications. Now you can't scroll through these, so you can only see the top 4 here, but you can tap on it and you can tap to open the app. You can do that for any of them right here. You can see we get this little arrow which indicates which one you're looking at. So again, you can tap on this, tap to open, takes you right to the app on the home screen. Now you can swipe up to get to the main home screen. So that's how you exit an app. Now if you're on the lock screen, you can also swipe down to enable do not disturb, which will show this little clock, and you can select a reoccurrence for do not disturb, or you can select an alarm. And if you want to turn it off, just swipe up and we can unlock our device and take a look around. Now on the main home screen, you can see your 8 most recently used apps, and you can tap and hold on these to move them around, or you can also just close them like so. And you can see that they resize to fill up only one page, so you don't have to scroll through it. And I can also tap on it to jump right to those apps, and it's pretty quickly here. And you can swipe up again to get back to home. And I can swipe to the right to see your applications here. If I swipe all the way to the right, I get to my BlackBerry Hub, which is part of the notification center. So if I swipe again, you'll actually see all of my notifications, and I can select specific notifications. So for example, I can select my text messages here, or I can swipe again to see my Gmail. I can swipe again to see my other Gmail account. You can see my Twitter messages as well. And I can see my phone calls, emergency alerts, visual voicemail, pinned messages, and that sort of thing. Now if I select Hub, it aggregates it all together in chronological order, so I can sort through it like so. Now I can tap and hold on this item and see additional actions here. So I can file it, flag it, reply it. It's all dependent on the specific app here. So for example, Twitter is different. So you can see I have different options here. And I can also delete it as well, or I can limit this. So if I just want to see my Twitter messages in my inbox, I can go ahead and select it, and I'll see all my Twitter messages in the inbox. And I can swipe back here to jump back to Priority Hub. Now you can see Priority Hub actually aggregates everything that it considers to be top priority based on my usage of the device, which is kind of nice. Now I can also search the BlackBerry Hub here, so I can just start typing in my search to search for specific things instead of having to sort through them all, or I can search all my attachments. This includes all my attachments in my email, images that have been posted to Twitter, that sort of thing, so I can tap on this PDF here. I can also compose a message right here, and I can use one of the available services, BBM, text messages, Gmail, one of my Gmail accounts, Twitter, and that sort of thing. So if I want to compose a Twitter message, I can start composing a Twitter message all without leaving the notification center or opening the app. Now I can also go up here to select my action, so I can delete the message, reply to it, file it, that sort of thing. Now if you want to reset the BlackBerry Hub, just swipe down 5 times from the upper right corner. Now if you're on one of the main home screens, either this one or the app screen, you can see when you swipe up here, you get a quick glance of your pending notifications. Now you can peek at your notifications anytime just by swiping up from the bottom here. And if you want to launch into your BlackBerry Hub, just swipe to the right. You can also use that same peek gesture to look at your battery status. Now when you're on one of these home screens and you swipe down, you get to your quick settings. So you can quickly access your settings panel like so. Now if I'm in an app like Twitter, these settings of course are unique to that specific app. But if I want to get back to my quick settings, I use a 2-finger gesture like so, which takes me to quick settings no matter what I'm looking at. So I don't have to be on the home screen to just get to quick settings. I can use that 2-finger gesture within each app. So these quick settings include Wi-Fi, your notifications, a flashlight, so you can enable that flashlight on the back, your device monitor, which includes your battery life, which is really impressive on this device. So you have a complete breakdown of your battery, as well as what's taking up your storage, your CPU cycles, memory, as well as your Wi-Fi. So again, lots of information here, which is very handy. We also have bedside mode, which is a do not disturb feature, which again is that same utility when you swipe down on the lock screen, which again you can deactivate by swiping up. We also can toggle off Bluetooth. We can set an alarm, and you can see it's set for 6 o'clock. And if I want to adjust it, just tap on it, and it takes me right to that settings panel, and I can move this little dialer around to change it. And again, if I swipe down from the top, I get to additional controls, and if I swipe in from the left edge here, you get to additional controls related to this app. Now if we go to settings and go to our quick settings, this entire drop-down panel is customizable. So you can see you can select specific toggles that you want to activate, or you can deselect them and you can rearrange them here. So you can select rearrange and then just move them around like so. Now on the main home screen, you also have quick access to your camera and your phone dialer. So again, just tap this to activate the camera. We can swipe up again to get back to the home screen and tap the phone icon to get to our phone contacts and our phone dial pad and that sort of thing. Now one of the interesting things about this recent apps viewer is that it can continue playing content in the background while doing other things. That includes video on websites like YouTube. But adds a remote controller with a conventional on-screen interface. Now if you want to pause playback of video or media, just tap that center click button between the volume controls and it pauses playback and resumes it, and again that works no matter where you are in the system. Now you can see down here we have these little indicators which tells you where you are in the system, and you can just tap on them to jump right to them. Now these apps can be folded or deleted, just tap and hold on it. You can hit that trash icon to delete it, or you can take it and hover it over one of the other icons to create a folder, and you can name it and that sort of thing. Now if you're watching media here, you do have some wireless options. So you can connect an HDMI cable to the USB port to output at HDMI, or you can use Miracast to broadcast to a compatible device like a Samsung Smart TV. So your phone now acts as a remote control while you get a full view on your television. Now you can also press this eject icon to mirror your screen instead. So you can now see your entire screen of your BlackBerry right on your TV. Now what you may have noticed is that there is no shortcut for search, and that's because you can just start typing your search term on the physical keyboard when you're on the home screen. So for example, if I start searching Android, you can see it just starts bringing up search, and it searches my entire device for Android. So it finds Android under Contacts, Documents, Browser, Messages, and you can extend your search to Bing, Google, Yahoo, and other apps like Maps and Twitter and BlackBerry World and that sort of thing. You can also scrub to your search with this little scrubber on the side. So you can select specific apps in which to search for Android, and you can jump right to it. Especially if you have a lot, this is useful. So I can jump right to Documents. Alternatively, you can also use voice. Android.
Searching the internet for Android.
Now search is integrated into BlackBerry Assistant, so you can tap and hold the voice button on here to also activate BlackBerry Assistant here, and you can tap here to call somebody or to play music or search the web and that sort of thing. Now there's a lot you can do with BlackBerry Assistant, so you can tap this little eye icon to see some suggested actions. So you can see we can set an alarm, we can launch apps or access settings, we can of course post with our BBM account, we have our calendar and email, Facebook and Foursquare, knowledge, so you can ask questions and receive answers thanks to Wolfram Alpha. You can search for movies and music. So I just got a pop-up notification here, so I can tap on it and respond without leaving what I'm doing here. So I can reply directly to this message without leaving the notification, and when I'm done, I can close it. Getting back here, of course, you can launch your own music, you can activate navigation, make phone calls, search for places and locations nearby, set reminders, do a web search, you can check sports scores, you can send text messages, interact with Twitter, and check your weather conditions. So let's try a few things here. What's the weather like tomorrow in Rochester Hills, Michigan?
The forecast for Rochester Hills, United States on Friday is cold with clouds and sun with temperatures between 37 and 24 degrees.
Search YouTube for Note 4 unboxing.
Searching YouTube for Note 4 unboxing.
Well, pretty close. It didn't quite get the term right, but YouTube found it anyway. Send a tweet.
What would you like your tweet to say?
I'm using BlackBerry Assistant to send this tweet, period. Look for it in the next video, period.
Your tweet says I'm using BlackBerry Assistant to send this tweet. Look for it in the next video.
Now there's a lot to take a look at with this keyboard. So you can see we have this 3-row design with the spacebar integrated into the standard QWERTY layout, so it's a little strange, but you do get used to it. Above that you'll find your variable keyboard or variable options, which appear just above it, which depend on your context. So you can see things like your shift key here. So if you want to caps lock, just tap and hold on it, and then you have caps lock, you can tap it to release it. You can also see that we have our number pad here, which you can bring up, and then you can also activate your number pad by swiping down, either on the left hand or right hand side, and you can get 2 more characters by swiping again, and you can swipe again to hide it. So that works on the left hand and right hand side. So let's start typing. This is a test. So you can see here it's predicting the next word. So I can just swipe up on the portion of the keyboard next to that word and it adds it. And I can see that the next suggestion is a period, so I can swipe up on that to get to that. Same with the here, so I can swipe up on the middle of the keyboard to add the, and I can select only, way, etc. So it continues adding words as I want. Now I can use the shift key to capitalize, or I can just tap and hold on the letter and it capitalizes it for me. I can also activate the voice keyboard just by tapping and holding on it. This is a test of the voice keyboard, period. Now it doesn't give you live feedback here, but it does a pretty good job. Now if you need to edit your text, you can just tap on the text and you get this little editor which you can move around and reposition the cursor like so. Of course you could also just use these little arrows to do the same thing. Now if you hold the shift key and swipe around on the keyboard, you can select text here. So for example, when you select your text, you now have options for cut, copy, and paste, as well as editing options. So you can select the text, font, size, and that sort of thing. And of course, you can also just use these little handles here to adjust the text you want to select. You can also bring up the text selection utility just by double tapping on the keyboard, and then you can slide around to where you want, or you can double tap to hide it. Now, if you want to quickly delete a word, just quickly swipe toward the left and it will delete just the previous word. Now, this keyboard can also be used as a trackpad, so you can scroll left and right and up and down in variable ways, and it works pretty well. Next thing I want to take a look at is our settings panel, which is customizable here. So you can swipe down and rearrange your items like so. So you can rearrange them by dragging and dropping them. And if you want to restore it to default, you have a restore to default settings panel up here. Now, if you go to About, you can see the version of the software we're running. So of course, this is 10.3. We have our accessibility features right here, so you can toggle them on and off like magnify mode and closed captioning. You also have your accounts, and this is where you can log into accounts like your Google accounts, which syncs calendar, email, and contacts. So I have both my Google accounts synced here. You can also see Facebook and Twitter, and you can add additional accounts like, for example, LinkedIn, Evernote, a CalDAV account, and the Amazon App Store. You can also go up here to add IMAP accounts and that sort of thing. We also have advanced interactions, which adds some interesting features here. Some of them are turned off by default. One of them is lift to wake. So if you lay your BlackBerry flat on the table and you go to reach it and pick it up, it determines that you may want to look at the screen, so it wakes the screen up for you automatically. So you can turn that on if you want. You also have flip to mute. So basically you just flip the phone face down and it mutes your phone call or your alarm or something like that. You also have flip to save power. This is on by default. So if you flip your BlackBerry down face down, it will activate power saving mode. You also have basic things like your app manager, which includes the device monitor, your default apps, card emulation apps, and your installation app permissions, which you can adjust here. Now, under your BlackBerry Assistant features, you can disable full assistant, so when that's turned off, you only have use for BlackBerry Assistant when making phone calls, opening apps, playing music, or searching your device. We also have BlackBerry Protect, so if your phone is lost or stolen, just go to this website and you can track the location of your phone or wipe it out. Under data management, you can see your data usage and several options here you can toggle on and off, and you can set a data limit per month. Under display, this is where you can select your wallpapers, so they give you some wallpapers to pick from, but of course you can pick from your own gallery as well. We have our screen brightness, our font sizes to select from, and you can see we can turn off that swipe to wake feature, which is on by default. You can also always show icon labels. If you want to turn that off, you can. This is on by default. We can also enable or disable HDMI audio. This is also where you'll find share screen. Now, share screen allows you to wirelessly broadcast the display of this phone on Miracast capable devices like my Samsung Smart TV. Now, we also have display color settings, so you can select your own white balance as well as your color saturation. Under media sharing, you can see that we can share our music, pictures, and videos using DLNA for DLNA certified devices like an AV receiver or that sort of thing. Under our networks and connections, we have our mobile network, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, VPN, NFC, mobile hotspotting, and internet tethering, so all of our options live here. Now we also have our payment options. This is where we can log in with our BlackBerry ID to add new payment options like credit cards or PayPal IDs. So if we go to add here, you can see we can add a new credit card. So I have to do select it and enter the information in. And of course, you can also add a PayPal account. Now under notifications, you have several options here like your lock screen wallpaper. So you can set that here. You can also select your notification mode. So you can select normal mode, which will receive all your notifications, but you can select phone calls only, vibrate only, silent, or always off. So it's kind of a do not disturb feature here. Now you can turn off your notification sounds or enable it and independently control the volume of your notifications right here. So it's not affected by your system volume when you adjust the volume on the side. We also can enable vibrate or not vibrate. We can disable the LED notification light. You can see instant previews, and you can select your lock screen notification. So if I go here to lock screen settings, you can see I can also enable the lock power button to unlock the device instead of hitting that power button and then swiping to unlock. You can also enable lock screen notifications, which is on by default, but you can also turn on screen for new notifications, which is not on by default, and that's personally what I prefer here. So your screen will turn on and flash your notification when you receive a new one. Now under quick settings, this is where we can modify the drop down shade here, which reveals our quick settings. So you can see we can add additional quick settings here. Now with all of our quick setting toggles turned on, you can see we have 2 pages of quick settings to swipe through. Now you can see we do have rotation lock, and even though this is a square screen, you can still rotate it. So you can lock the screen or allow it to rotate here, and this works in some apps like Twitter here. So for example, I can rotate it to landscape orientation, and I can use the keyboard as my trackpad again to swipe up and down, so it changes the orientation of this swipe gesture as well when you're rotating it to landscape. Another really neat feature here is called BlackBerry Blend. This is kind of similar to Apple's continuity feature. So basically, this can connect to devices like your iPad or your Mac or your PC. Basically, all you have to do is install software on those devices and have direct access to your BlackBerry wirelessly or wired if you prefer. So you can see right now I have two devices connected, my iPad and my desktop, which is an iMac in the other room here. But we're going to take a look at this on the iPad. So if we launch the app here, you can see it directly connects wirelessly to my BlackBerry PassPort. So I can see this BlackBerry Blend dashboard, which aggregates everything in real time. So you can see my BlackBerry Hub, my email, my BBM, and my SMS messages. So I can receive and respond to SMS right on my tablet or my PC. You can also see my calendar timeline down here. So again, a nice quick view. You can also see down here we can jump to things like our calendar. We can see our calendar in various ways here. And you have a little home button in the upper left. So you can see the BlackBerry Hub, which works just like you would expect with your messages, your BBM, your SMS messages, and your Gmail, all organized by chronological order or by priority. And you have all the same controls you would expect on your BlackBerry itself. And then we have our file manager. This is where we can manage content like our music files. If you want to load music into your library, this is where you do it. Of course, this is best done on a Mac or PC, where you can just drag and drop your files to your BlackBerry, and again, that can all be done wirelessly or wired to speed things up. You can also see we have our photos. This is where you can access your photo library, all the photos you've taken on your device. Of course, it doesn't look like it's loading it very quickly here, but you can see your still photos as well as your movies and that sort of thing. We also have our settings in the upper right corner, so we can disconnect, we can turn off notifications, or remain signed on if we want, so it doesn't sign us off automatically. Now in terms of the app selection, we have a quick shortcut to BlackBerry Hub, which you can also just swipe to get to. You can also see that we have our contacts and calendar, BBM, and text messaging. We have BlackBerry World, which is BlackBerry's app store. And then we have the new Amazon App Store, which is also an app store that works with Android phones. We have our standard browser and Docs to Go. Docs to Go is able to read and create Doc, XLS, and PowerPoint documents here, so you can edit and read them in this one single app. We also have maps with turn-by-turn navigation and voice direction. We also have a reminders app called Remember, pictures for our photo gallery, music and video players, as well as a video editor called Story Maker. We also have our date and time, as well as our alarms right here. You can also see we have a weather app here as well, which uses your GPS location, and you can add additional locations if you prefer, and you can see your hourly breakdown. Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, as well as Evernote, came pre-installed, as well as Foursquare. YouTube is not an app, it's actually a shortcut to the YouTube mobile site, so you can see m.youtube.com. We also have Box and Dropbox, which is cloud storage services, and then we have Adobe Reader. We have a setup app for setting up your device. You can set up certain accounts, your BlackBerry Protect account, that sort of thing. We also have tutorials to explain how to use your BlackBerry, so everything I've just been showing you in this video is also available here, although not quite in as much detail. We also have our calculator, which features a tip calculator, a converter utility, and if you go to the calculator here, you can also swipe between the available modes here. Alright, so let's go and take a look at the camera. So once again, this is a 1080p camera, no 4K here, but it does have optical image stabilization, 13 megapixels, and a pretty decent LED flash. Now, the interface is pretty basic here. You can snap your photograph, you can tap and hold anywhere on the scene to lock exposure and focus, and tap anywhere to release it. We also have our video mode, so all you have to do is hit the video button and it starts recording automatically. And you can snap your photograph and turn on the LED light like so, and we can stop it. Of course, you can also pinch in and out to zoom, and video does have continuous autofocusing as well, which you can toggle on and off under settings. Now you can take a photograph just by tapping the spacebar on the keyboard or one of the volume keys along the side. Now to take a screenshot, just tap and hold the two volume keys along the side and it will save it. Now in terms of our settings, we have our modes up here, which includes something called whiteboard mode, which allows you to take photographs of whiteboards easily. We also have night mode and beach or snow mode. We have our flash settings for auto on and off. We have our ratio for 1:1, 4:3, or 16:9, which is what I have activated. We also have our HDR mode, which you can turn on and off. We have our timer. We have additional settings right here. So this takes us to things like face detection, which you can toggle on and off. You can see the video size up here as well. So you can select 1080p or 1080p at 60 frames per second if you prefer. Also under settings, you'll find time shift, which basically takes burst shots whenever you're taking a photograph. So if you have time shift enabled, just take your photograph, takes a bunch of photos all at once, and then you can select from your timeline here and save the one you want. We also have our burst mode. So all you have to do is touch and hold the camera button to take a bunch of photographs all at once. And it takes as many as you want until you lift your finger. Now in terms of picture quality, it does a pretty decent job here. It takes sharp, clear images with good exposure and color reproduction, and it does so in all lighting conditions, either bright light or low light. So it does a pretty good job with low light performance. I'm definitely impressed overall by the camera. Video is also pretty decent as well. So with optical image stabilization and software stabilization, it delivers really smooth video with nice autofocus, although the autofocus does tend to be a little slow. In fact, that tends to be the biggest issue with this camera, is autofocusing is very inaccurate and it's slow to respond. So I spend a lot of time trying to find focus with this camera, so it does make this camera feel particularly slow, although it does deliver pretty decent results. Now in terms of speaker quality, this definitely has one of the loudest set of stereo speakers I've heard to date, so any notification you receive are very loud and clear. Audio also sounds great for media, so when you're watching movies or that sort of thing, it sounds really good. So let's get a sample of it. Now, although we have a high quality, bright, and vivid display here, the problem with this aspect ratio is watching movies, because movies are in widescreen aspect ratio. They look particularly small. They can only make use of a very small portion of the display, so they don't look as good as they would on a traditional widescreen phone. Now in terms of the form factor, I actually really like this phone. I do have large hands, so it feels pretty comfortable to me, and I can use this phone one-handed. The only thing I can't use one-handed is the QWERTY keyboard, which is a drawback. So if you want to use this to quickly type a message, you will have to use two hands. There's no getting around that unless you just want to navigate around on the screen. But it fits really nice and comfortably in my hand, has a nice solid feel to it, and because it's not as long as a lot of flagship phones are today, it actually fits really perfectly in my pocket. It kind of feels like a wallet as opposed to a long or large smartphone. Now, if there is one word that describes the BlackBerry PassPort, it's robust. This is a robust built phone with a solid metal frame, materials that don't pick up fingerprints but are pretty durable in terms of real life wear and tear. We also have a really bright display, so it works great in all lighting conditions. We have really loud stereo speakers, so your notifications come through loud and clear. And then you have a pretty decent camera. We also have incredible battery life. They estimate about 30 hours, and that's what I'm getting. So I get at least a day, full 24 hours out of this phone before I have to charge it, and usually more than that. Now in terms of battery size, this is one of the biggest out there at 3,450 milliamp hours, so a huge battery. Now the cameras are also pretty decent here, nothing to write home about, but you do get optical image stabilization, which does deliver solid results all the time. Now of course the autofocusing mechanism isn't the best I've seen, so that could stand improvement. Robust also refers to the software experience. This is a bulletproof operating system that runs smoothly all the time, is very stable. I've never had any hangups or crashing, no lagging or frame drops. And then the interface is very simple and easy to use and does a really good job managing notifications. Now, one of the biggest selling points of the BlackBerry PassPort is its off-screen QWERTY keyboard, which has a lot of fans. A lot of people prefer using off-screen keyboards or physical keys instead of the on-screen virtual keyboards. Now, the great thing about a physical keyboard is that it's very accurate. So when you press a button, you know you're pressing the right button. You're not just kind of mashing the screen and hoping you're hitting the right key on the screen. So this feels very accurate, but to me it's also much slower because it doesn't take advantage of some of the software tricks that a software keyboard can use, like swipe and that sort of thing. So I'm used to those keyboards, so I can type a lot faster on them, but I can definitely type a lot more accurately with this keyboard. But it does have some nice software tricks with that swiping gesture for auto completion and that sort of thing, and a lot of those things do help to speed up the process. But generally speaking, I think if you're a big fan of physical QWERTY keyboards, this may not be the right one for you just because of the strange layout, which may be hard to get used to. But of course, once you start using the BlackBerry PassPort over months, you do get used to the keyboard, and a lot of people are big fans of it. So in the end, there is a lot to like about the BlackBerry PassPort, and I'm surprised by how much I really enjoy using this phone. The form factor is surprisingly comfortable to use and fits well in the pocket. The only drawback here, obviously, is that 4:3 aspect ratio isn't best for all circumstances like watching movies, but it works good for websites and that sort of thing. And of course, it can be used in any orientation, but it doesn't matter which orientation you're using. Again, we have that nice robust design with the stereo speakers, the bright vivid display, pretty solid cameras, and excellent battery life. And of course, we have that QWERTY keyboard, which definitely has some strengths compared to an on-screen keyboard. I actually really enjoy using this, but it does take some getting used to, especially if you're used to other style QWERTY keyboards, even the ones from older BlackBerry phones. Now, the only drawback here is the app selection, which is getting better thanks to the Amazon Amazon App Store, but still many apps that are popular on Android and iOS are not here. But most of the apps I use are. There's a few apps that are missing, like Q, which I use to control my lights and that sort of thing, but generally speaking, I have most of what I need on this phone. So in the end, a really solid phone with some great software ideas that actually work pretty well. So that's going to do for me in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.